Okay, so hello and welcome everyone. My name is Jordan Johnson from jojoempathic.com. And in today's video, I will be sharing a message on grief healing for fathers and for men. So if you've been following my channel, a few weeks ago, I put out a video that was grief healing for mothers and women. So today's video will speak to men, okay? Because men and women handle grief, things in life very differently. We're wired differently biologically. Spiritually, there is gender energy associated with our identity, and this plays a role on our channels, our lenses, our activities, the way we respond to not just the good things in life, but the negative things as well, like grief. Grief is usually something that we want to avoid, but it's unavoidable. We want to escape from grief, but we just can't quite escape from it. It follows us, it lingers within us. And if we don't address it, it tends to ruin our lives. It tends to lead our lives. It tends to block joy and blessings and prosperity. So my intention in prayer for anyone led to this video is that this helps with a sense of relief and may provide you with a higher truth perspective that you may resonate and also find as a higher truth that maybe you didn't see before. And this perspective helps you to elevate, to evolve, and to keep going when things can feel like life just shook up and everything's been broken down because you may have just lost someone that you love. Some may say fathers more than even yourself, like a child. Okay. So please like and subscribe to my channel if you like this type of content. I am an evidential medium and psychic. I'm also known as a medical intuitive, and I offer private sessions that you can book with me at jojoempathic.com. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. So many that are called to this video may say, what would this woman know about how a man experiences grief? So in order to come up with this video, I channeled the content in addition to what I've learned from working with men that have lost children. I also did something really interesting where I began to tap into past lives where I was a man, a father, and lost a child. And so this is a channeled message mixed with some experience that I've learned from working with the public and clients that have gone through something as tragic as losing a child. So I'm going to try to give as much empathy and sympathy to you. Of course, in this identity as a woman, I cannot relate. So one of the things I found, I'll start with sharing that I noticed when I was kind of leaned into a past life, I was very rigid, and it was a son that I had lost, and I felt a need to, like, it was very, I had all of this energy. I wasn't drained. There was so much energy within me that I was almost raging. I was almost needing some sort of outlet. Drop a comment if you can relate to this as a man after the loss of a loved one. Doesn't even have to be a son or daughter. This can just be grief in general. Okay. Tell me if you can relate to it. Feels like there's just a lot in your torso and your heart that is overpouring and overspilling. And it was like I didn't really know how to channel it other than anger and frustration and manipulation when I was linked into that life. Okay. And it was just a very sorrowful experience that I was feeling very punished. I was feeling like I was at fault. I was feeling like reality just slipped through my hands when I just could not control that something that had grown from me, come from me, my seed, was no longer there in the physical presence. And I think a lot of men may relate to this part of my story to where it was like I didn't have the spiritual aspect. I see myself now in this church, and it was just like I didn't have that spiritual foundation of the afterlife understanding, or I didn't really know where my son was at after death. And there was a lot of anxiety around the burial. In this life currently, fast forward to now, I do have things that I'm working through and doing past life regression to understand why I don't want to be buried. I have known this since I was a young girl in this life. I don't want to be buried. I always want to be like visualizing myself like above ground when I pass away. And I think from this exercise of coming up with this content, it's like seeing the anxiety I felt of burying a child was adding to this feeling of where I'm at today, of the anxiety of being buried. I feel really could have came from this past life because it didn't feel natural to me. The whole process didn't feel natural. I began to be very angry at God and angry at myself and separation with my then, it felt like wife. It felt like this just ripped my whole life apart. And anything that once was before the death no longer was after the death. So that's kind of when I lean into my own past life, that's what I feel. And I don't feel that I, in that life, recovered from it ever. Alcohol was a problem for me. It felt like as a man, and they show me like I drunk myself to death. Like I literally drunk alcohol and died from grief. So coming back to this message today, if you believe in past lives and understand how they influence us today, you can see also the importance of why I'm here to share for my own healing too, even as a woman. So my grief healing for mothers and women, I shared that I receive a mediumship symbol of a sideways elephant. Okay. And for men, my mediumship symbol it looks like a banana that's peeled back, and it's usually accompanied by other symbols. So like I'll see like a banana peeled back, and then I'll receive a knot in a rope. I'll also receive different imprints and impressions of the emotional state of like the sorrow or sudden shock, loss of a child. I'll start to hear about the emotional state as a symbol of that this is a gentleman I'm working with that has lost a child. So I'll break that down. The banana, not to be like provocative or cliche, but it's almost like the man's power has been peeled back. It's like the man's vulnerability has been exposed, and there's nothing that they can do from that state. Like it's just like an exposed masculine power is the way that I see the peeled back banana. Now, the knot is also really symbolic of um, feeling corded to this state. So you may relate if you've lost a child or someone that you deeply love as a man to where you feel like your masculinity is exposed, vulnerable, and you're corded to that space. So I want to also begin by talking about the afterlife. Mediumship is one of the most healing ways to heal grief. When you can hear from beyond the veil, your child give you a message, it is incredibly healing and validating that they're okay. So what tends to happen is a lot of parents, this is mothers as well, will receive signs and symbols that their loved one is still there in their reality, in the third dimension. This may be like they're washing the dishes and then all of a sudden the lights flicker over here and then the radio or the, Pandora song changes immediately to the song of their child that it was their absolute favorite. And they're like, the mother or the father says, I know that was my daughter. I know that was my son coming through to give me a knowing that I'm there. I'm still here and I'm okay. And then it's usually accompanied by some sort of message just like I just said, like they just have this overwhelming feeling of peace that their loved one's okay, that they're trying to get their attention. Okay. Um, so that seems to be very common. And then that's what leads them into a medium's space and booking a reading with a medium. Now, if you are a grieving father or mother, anyone grieving is welcome to this video, and you may be drawn to it in some sort of grief state. If you're drawn to a medium and let's say they're coming through with the evidence, but it's just not jiving with you, don't be discouraged. You want to find a medium that really speaks your language so that you can get what you need. You can resonate with the messages. Not everybody is going to speak your language. It doesn't mean all mediums are bad. But you want to be led. Let it be a spiritual experience. Ask your child to guide you to who would be the best channel for you. I would say this is the time that most parents that have lost a child begin to get into the spirituality. They begin to dive into the language of mediumship from the loss of a child because it's unbearable. They have to know if their child is okay. So I'll get into the destiny points of death later, but that is something you don't want to ignore. If you are wrapped in a religion or leaned into a religion or following a religion, if you have dogmas, which are religious principles that really anchor into your mind, then it will be hard to feel okay or safe to go in to a channeler. It'll feel uncomfortable to listen to those signs and symbols of the birds flying by or the feathers being left or someone giving you a message. You might ignore it as just a coincidence. You might not want to listen to it because you feel it's wrong, or maybe it's a demon or a darkness or a dark soul trying to trick you. So the solution to that is understanding the language yourself. You must begin to dive into mediumship. There's so many books you can pick up privately, read on your own time to learn the language. There's so many audiobooks that you can listen to that help you to learn the language so you can hear yourself. It is a myth that, you know, only certain people can hear from the light. We are all light beings. We are all wired with the ability to channel. We essentially are a channel. Life itself is mediumship. Frequencies are mediumship. Patterns are mediumship. All that is spirit speaking. So you and I are not so different other than I'm aware of my ability and I've trained in it and I am called into this work. And so I practice it very often, daily. It becomes part of my lifestyle, my daily routine to communicate with spirit. And you can too. And you should, because it will help you to know that life continues after the death of flesh. Okay? So what is the afterlife like, do I believe, from working with spirits on the other side? I do believe that there is like a heaven construct. There's many. Have you ever met somebody where they're literally thriving in every area of their life? They're just always happy, always thriving, always excited. Things just seem to always work out for them. Things work out for all of us, but they just have this energy of like, this person's extremely high vibrational. No matter if it's storming or snowing, whatever, they're happy. You could say they're living in the afterlife of heaven. They're living in a heaven construct. When we pass on, and many near-death experiencers experience this, there tends to be a life review. Why? Because we choose to come to Earth on a soul agreement to learn lessons, to evolve. And there is a significance to carrying on the physical biology, carrying on genetics. That is part of a greater whole purpose. Now, you maybe have lost a loved one or a child that never was able to have children of their own. Okay. There is a purpose in that as well. That is the choice of your loved one's soul. That is their contract. Okay. Everything is divine and we're working in order. Divine law and divine order is God. Okay. So nothing is truly a mistake. Everything is consciousness. Timing is consciousness. Consciousness is God. Okay. So the afterlife, we do a life review and we can begin to now create heaven. We can do what we want. We instantly think and manifest from thought instantly. We can begin to go into another body. We can reincarnate into flesh. This can also be as an animal. We can become a guide for someone else. We could go into another universe. There is endless possibilities of what can happen after a soul leaves a body. It's usually, more often, pure bliss, peace, and light until there is that choice to move on and evolve through another identity of some sort. That's where there tends to be more so, you could say, the possibility of hell, being born on earth into a situation that is tragic, is dark, can be a hell. There is an astral plane where some souls are confused and hold on and feed off of lower energies like grief and trauma and confusion. However, most souls tend to continue on in peace. Okay. So that's one of the things I wanted to share. Now, a lot of souls that I'm seeing leave lately are starseeds, and it can lead to very tragic deaths, especially for young people. We have seen a wave of young people depart from Earth. And with that, it can feel like, oh my gosh, is my son or daughter going into the light or heaven? They were so confused. They were so misled. They were into so much trouble and chaos. I'm here to share with you a lot of these star seeds because they tell me they're star seeds. When I'm reading for people, I can see that this soul was very high vibrational. It was on purpose. They are in peace now. They are home. They are in heaven. Okay. On earth, they came to disrupt society. They came as misfits. They came with a different type of consciousness that isn't very common on earth. So a lot of the star seeds that have come to earth and that have departed young often tell me that they feel very confused. They were troubled in their mind, troubled in their heart. They were often mislabeled, misunderstood, and misdiagnosed. They never really had that connection to their being as okay in who they are because they didn't feel like they fit in. So I'm here to say this, not that you did a bad job. That was their purpose. And now they're in the relief of the spirit body. They're back at home after they've accomplished or done what they've needed to do in that limited consciousness or identity that you are familiar with. So a lot of relief happens at death. A lot of the younger souls that are departing have come to really trigger awakening As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, usually the death of a child will lead a parent into learning mediumship or spirituality. Okay, so one of the things you can do is you can help create a world where all souls can exist in harmony. You can tap into your power of choice as a man, as a powerful creator, a conscious creator, to bring more harmony to Earth as a way of leaving a legacy for your child. Okay, that's what a lot of these souls are wishing for their loved ones to do, is to bring more harmony, to live more fully in the moment, and to enjoy and love more with less stress, with less tension and disease. Death is negotiable, and there are many different points within a soul's earth agreement or soul agreement that they could potentially leave, sign off, or depart from Earth in their flesh. It's important that you know, as a man, if you have lost a child, as confusing, as disgusting, as stomach turning as it may be, your child's soul, before they came to Earth, knew that this was the life they were stepping into. And at this divine timing, that there would be the opportunity to potentially leave, and on purpose, and in agreement with you as their parent. Before you've signed on to Earth, part of your soul agreement was to go through this tragedy, this trauma, for a reason. Okay? It's on time. Soul agreements are with people, places, the earth, and time. So it's important for you to understand, what is your purpose? What is your mission? How can you continue on with the work you've come here to do? And now with this experience, you're a new man, you're a new person. How can you leave a legacy? Let's talk about grief a bit. Grief is a very heavy, dense frequency. It's an anchoring frequency rather than a freeing frequency. It tends to hang around the midsection, the heart, and oozes down the legs, the ankles, like anchors, like chains. The color of grief, clairvoyantly, is the color of wisdom that has like sunken into gray. The color of wisdom, like indigo, that turns to a saddened blue. It turns to a bluish gray. And it affects the root. It affects the sacral chakra. It affects the solar plexus in the heart. So your entire physical body will essentially be affected by grief. Grief weakens the immune system. It leads to different diseases of the physical body, the lungs, the mind, the heart, and often digestive system and reproductive system. Grief will also attack the back, the spine, pain, the bones, the joints, the skeletal system, the very structures that hold the human physical body up and together. So if the gray and the sunken blue become the dominant state chronically, the auric field and all of the grief in the aura begins to turn black and become a portal. And it becomes a portal for more grief. It becomes a portal of more pain. It becomes a portal of more sadness. And the way that we can make sure that we keep our aura field clear, our body clear, that we're not just coping, but we're healing from grief and the loss of a child. Here are some things we can potentially look into that may help resolve the energy of grief or transmute it within our hearts, our mind, and our field. So let's talk about how men tend to deal with grief by statistics. So, and this is also based off of what I see from reading fathers that have lost specifically children, and this can be adult children as well. So, men tend to mask their grief. They tend to try to make decisions that support other people in the midst of grief. They also tend to make moves and decisions that bring them praise and validation after a significant period of grief. A lot of them are searching for comfort in some way. And so the praise and validation from others tends to be how they cope with grief. They begin to go on a mind mission to how can I lift this person up? Like, how can I support my wife? How can I support my other children? How can I, look like the hero? How can I be a hero? And that is it can be healthy to be giving in the midst of your grief. Men naturally do this. However, a lot of that can turn into an imbalance of power and increased manipulation to win and seize control, leading men to work from a state of how can I take back what was taken from me? So a lot of men tend to become very violent after grief. A lot of men, more than women, tend to go into alcoholism and in drug abuse from grief. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind is I would say that a lot of the destruction we see on earth that comes from men is tied to grief. So people, it's like the expression cliche that hurt people hurt people. People that are maybe attacking you, if you really look and sit and listen to their energy field, they're sad, they're feeling disempowered, they're feeling grief, and to some extent. A lot of men are living in a chronic state of grief. They're living with the energy of coping versus healing, repressing and masking versus being authentic and flowing. Okay, so something else to consider. Many men today are living through their ego. The ego, the logical left brain, egotistical man identity is usually the main character speaking through men today. So grief comes along like the loss of a child, and everything is shooken up. It's very similar to an ego death. So when we realize, let's say a man realizes that he's been operating from a state of ego, a need to control, a need to win, just a competitive mind. Okay. And he decides he doesn't want to live this way anymore. And he goes through like an ego death process. His whole life will be shooken up, usually because you've been operating and creating from this lower self, from more of the animal mind versus the soulful heart. That you've created this relationship, this marriage, really rooted in ego, not really love. You've created this, you've gone into this workforce because it was from ego. Someone told you that's the acceptable way. You wanted to get acceptance from your father, so you went into this line of work. It's not true to you. So you go through an ego death, the marriage ends. The work, you end up getting laid off. It just doesn't work anymore. Everything in your life that you had created with time was really created an ego, and you made that declaration to yourself. You want to switch into your heart. So it all is Kundalini. It's detoxed out for a higher purpose. Now you can get into your heart, even as a man, a tough man, and create from soul, because you are a soul too, not just women. We're all souls, and it's eternal soul. It's a loving soul. Okay, it's a compassionate soul, connecting and loving. It cares. So when you go through a grief of a child, loss of a child, everything changes similarly to an ego death. Marriages will crumble. Jobs tend to not work out anymore. So I share this with you to say, trust the process. It's on time. And life is not ending. A new chapter is beginning. And the death of your child was symbolic. And it's up to you to understand the symbology. And it's up to you to give yourself grace and grace to others. And not allow this experience to constrict your field, to constrict your flow, and to make you very angry. Anger is part of grief. But to continually hold on to the anger will lead you from that place. And once we create then, what's next? More shattering of it so that you can evolve. So it's important to know that your story is now shifting higher. It's important to allow yourself to evolve. Statistically, men tend to do avoidance and coping mechanisms versus facing and healing. And it's important that you get the healing that you deserve, whether this is through some sort of talk therapy, whether this is through, I'm going to go over some techniques in a second. Somatic therapy is great for men. Rage rituals are great for men. Boxing, kickboxing, things where you're actually punching and jabbing and more of a hardcore exercise so that you're actually pushing energy out of your field and not holding it in. Here's a big one. Men tend to express themselves less statistically with the loss of a child or grief. And this will affect your power. This will affect your reproductive system. This will affect your thyroid and your throat. So men tend to not talk about it, the grief, the loss of their child or loved one, with other men or people because they don't want to seem weak. They don't want to make anyone else uncomfortable. And there's other various reasons. Stigma, cultural beliefs of how men should handle negative energy or lower energy like grief, societal pressures, norms that they've adopted that become dogmas. Okay, so there's various reasons. If you do that, you will block energy at your power points, your throat, and your reproductive system. It's important that you learn how to continue to express that this is a painful time for you. It's important that you learn to express your truth in all of this. It's important that you're still expressing that you're emotional, that you're angry, that you're frustrated, that you're confused in a healthy way. So if not, again, the energy becomes blocked, and then we have other health issues. Then we have other things that we're going to have to deal with. So you really want to focus on how can you express your story? How can you express how you're feeling? How can you express, be received and heard? Stats also show that men tend to be more action-focused grievers, appearing less emotional and focused on practical issues. Okay, so statistically, men will dive into work with grief, while women tend to call off work and lose jobs during grief. Okay, So a lot of times men will just go focus on work and what they can control and what they can build and what they can do. And that can be healthy, but it also can be negative because you'll always feel like you're running and you'll always feel like life isn't good enough. And you'll always feel that it's just not enough. And then the men bleed this onto women. They bleed this onto other children. They bleed this out in other areas of their lives. Grief we can't escape. We have to face. So here are some things we can do to help step into the healing process after maybe losing the loss of a loved one, like a child. Allow the flow of emotions through you. It's a give and take. Having another person with you, whether this is a therapist, a family member, a trusted friend, it's important to be able to have a container where you can say, this just isn't fair. I'm a mess. I feel weak. I don't know if I can keep going. I don't have any more to give. Once you get that out, it's out. If you have somebody wise that you're speaking with, you can begin the healing process through community. After grief, really be mindful of the people that you have near you. Is your brotherhood really supportive, or is your brotherhood very toxic? Many men are involved in very toxic brotherhoods that don't really help grief healing. The brotherhoods that are toxic tend to manipulate the grieving process by taking advantage of a vulnerable man, leading him to miscue or misuse the energy of grief towards manipulation. So make a choice to recognize the community that you're in. And if you don't have community, begin to create community, begin to find community, begin to attract community that is healthy. Men that have gone through maybe the loss of a child, like yourself, extreme traumas, and that now share their story on how they made it out of the dark space, the dark time. And this will be very helpful and healing for you to know that you're not alone in the physical. You're never alone spiritually. I talked about how important mediumship is in connecting with your spirit guides, your angels, your loved ones on the other side. But we all do need people in the physical reality. So begin to create that if you don't have it, and seek it if you don't have it. I mentioned exercising and somatic release versus holding on, repressing, and becoming violent and holding on to animosity. Get it out through running, kickboxing, rowing. Do something that helps you to get your steam out to where you literally can physically exhaust yourself through exercise. It will help you to not hold on and become rigid. It'll help you to stay in the flow state. It'll help you to see through compassion in your heart for yourself and for others, accepting that everything is divine order, even if we don't understand it in the moment. It's also, I think, important for men to have healthy sex after grief. A lot of times we can feel we don't want to have any sexual intimacy after grief, especially men. And then all of a sudden it comes back, that sexual drive. It's like it left and then it comes back. It's important that you have healthy sex with someone that you trust and that can help you heal the body, heal your emotional body, your mental body through sacred sex. You will go a lot further in life with healthy sex. You'll have more money, more peace, more relaxation, less tension with healthy sex. So have as much of it as you can. Don't seek to manipulate women so that you can get off, because that will further it'll create an imbalance of power. The purpose of the healthy sex is to rebuild up your power, okay? To have your power be risen. And because this directly affects a man's power, I think more than women, um, you will then begin to have reproductive system blocks like testosterone imbalances, prostate cancers, erectile dysfunctioning if you are holding on to grief. It truly takes away a man's power because he feels out of control. When he is dominant naturally and a provider and protector for his family, then the universe comes in and grief with the loss of a child or loved one, and now he's gripping for any sense of power. So your power point is your sacral chakra. It's orange when it's healthy, it's bright when it's healthy. You're creative, you're flowing, you're expressive when it's healthy. So, excuse me, when it's closed, it's more of a burnt orange. You don't have the creativity. You don't have, excuse me, healthy sex partners around. You don't have um, a healthy sexuality. I think a lot of men, and I'm going to make a video on this, are polyamorous by nature. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't judge it. I think it's natural for men to want to carry their seed on. If you don't, I think that's more of an imbalanced state, not saying that every man wants to reproduce and have a bunch of kids. I think that's their choice and that could be healthy. But naturally and biologically, men are wired to give, to want sex, to have many children, have at times many spouses. So allow this to really show you your sexuality. Allow this to help you get your power back. Allow grief to be a teacher to you to how energy flows through you and how you can manipulate energy emotionally and sexually for a higher good versus just to take, just to empty a load inside of a woman that you don't care about. Not to be, I'm just honest here. Sex is sacred, and if you use sex as an escapism from grief, it tends to haunt men. It tends to haunt the earth. It takes from women, which eventually affects everyone. We're all in this together. And so healthy sex is a way of rebuilding your power and keeping your chi flow through you so that you don't begin to lose your power, lose your mind, and lose your ability to create. Give back. Giving back to other people will naturally help you as a man to feel better. Okay, so during the group process, you're trying to lift up your wife, you're trying to lift up your other children, you're trying to be that supportive, protective man that you are. What about outside of your home? When you go to a gas station and you see a homeless person, maybe you lend them $5. Maybe you go in there and get them a hot dog and a drink. Maybe you go get them some water. Maybe you see a woman on the side of the road driving and her tire's flat, and you stop and say, "How can I help you? Can I fix that for you?" Maybe you see an older woman struggling to get the groceries in her car at the grocery store. Maybe you stop what you're doing and you help this woman, old lady, put the groceries in. Maybe you go and you have a service that is interesting and you go speak to older folks in the nursing homes. Maybe you go volunteer at soup kitchens. Maybe you have a ton of money, you don't know what to do with it, and you donate it to a philanthropic organization. You do something that is going to give back to the earth at a time where everybody is suffering. There is so much healing that comes from being of service, from being selfless. Random acts of kindness can change your heart, can help you to transmute grief. and it opens doors. You begin to meet people, make connections, and see things in the world in a different perspective and lens. Opportunities magically present themselves. That's where the miracles begin to unfold. Learn how to make miracles happen. Learn how to receive miracles. Learn how to receive healing. Learn how to love and be able to receive love. A lot of times I think men will manipulate after grief because they want the nurture. They want the love. You deserve it. Okay, you've got a feminine part to yourself. I'm gonna say, no, not me. A lot of men say that, but they do. And if they block it, they end up blocking themselves. Soul is usually more of an identity-less existence or electricity. Carry on your mission and legacy. A lot of times I hear from grieving fathers that by them continuing their work, they're making their child proud. They feel their child is like looking down on them and proud of them. So know that you've made no mistakes. Focus on your mission, your purpose, and begin to leave a legacy. And that does make our loved ones and ancestors proud. They clap for us, they dance for us, they love that we're happy. They love that we're singing. They love that we're loving. They love when we're good, when we're good. So follow the high vibration and root yourself in the higher vibration. Do activities that help you to express, to release, and to enjoy. It's not a demasculating thing to be compassionate. Be compassionate. Real men care. Real men love. Think about you're lost right now, how much you love and care. Okay, so continue those acts of kindness, love, and care. And you will see and feel relief. The biggest thing you can do, again, is to connect with your loved one on the other side and know that they're still there, to feel them when you need a remembrance, and to continue on with the mission, with the purpose. My name is Jordan Johnson. I'm a psychic medium from jojoempathic.com. If you would like to book a private reading with me, I can meet with you over Zoom or the phone or in person in Frisco, Texas. Please drop a comment, share your feedback. If you have any prayer requests, you can feel free to email them to me privately at supportangel@jojoempathic.com or drop a comment in the box here. Hit the bell for notifications of when I go live. And again, I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for listening.